Okay, I would like to call to the May 7th, 2025 council meeting to order. If you're able, please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sonart.
Here.
Vice Mayor Naxted.
Here.
Councilmember Askin.
Here.
Councilmember Dothett.
Here.
Councilmember Casena.
Here.
Mayor Gabriel.
Here.
Councilmember Daniel.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, clerk. Now we have approval of the agenda and consent agenda. We have no laydowns. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Sonart.
I would like to add agenda item H5, amending and extending an employment agreement between the City of Kenai and City Attorney Scott Bloom to the consent agenda.
I think you move for approval of the consent agenda and then,
Okay.
and then you add that, I think.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
You have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Sonart, do you have an amendment?
Am I allowed to say ditto? Right. I would like to add agenda item H5, amending and extending an employment agreement between the City of Kenai and City Attorney Scott Bloom to the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, you have a second? We have unanimous consent, or
I'll call for unanimous consent.
are there any objections to unanimous consent? Madam Clerk, does that take care of both the amendment and everything? Okay, thank you very much. Are there any additional revisions to the agenda and consent agenda from the council? Saying none, the motion is approved. Would the clerk please read the consent agenda items to in the record, please? Sorry.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Naxted. Approval of the special meeting minutes of April 15th, 2025. Approval of the regular meeting minutes of April 16th, 2025. New business action approval bills to be ratified brought to you by the administration. Action approval special use permit to Weaver Brothers, Inc. for truck trailer storage brought to you by the administration. Action approval special use permit to Nil Chill Solutions LLC for an off-premise sign on city-owned property described as Tract B, Gusty Subdivision, Addition Number 2, located at 11631 Kenai Spur Highway, brought to you by the administration. Introduction of ordinance number 3470-2025, amending the official zoning map and land use table by rezoning 28 properties located near the intersection of the Kenai Spur Highway and Wildwood Drive from suburban residential to general commercial zoning district. Brought to you by the administration. Public hearing scheduled for May 21st, 2025. And action approval amending and extending an employment agreement between the City of Kenai and City Attorney Scott Bloom. And that is your consent agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any public comments on any of the consent agenda items just read by the clerk? Okay, seeing none, looks like I had skipped ahead a little bit myself. Unanimous consent was requested, and hearing no objections, okay, the agenda and consent agenda are approved. So, Madam Clerk, do we have anybody here from the Lee Shore? Oh, good. So I'd like to take a pause for a proclamation for the Lee Shore Center. If you want to stand, I'll come on down to you. And your name?
Shekinah Evans.
Shekinah.
Yeah.
Beautiful person.
Very nice to meet you.
Okay. Whereas sexual assault is an intolerable violent crime with public health implications for every person in the Kenai Central Peninsula, and no one person, organization, agency, or community can eliminate sexual assault alone. And whereas sexual violence prevention can be better addressed through education, counseling, support of victims and survivors, and increased support for services agencies in collaboration with the Lee Shore Center. And whereas the Lee Shore Center Its staff and volunteers work year-round to address sexual assault by providing 24-hour crisis services, offering support to those impacted by sexual assault, and providing prevention education and survivor empowerment information to schools, churches, and civic organizations, as well as to medical, mental health, law enforcement, education, and criminal justice personnel. And whereas the Lee Shore Center continues to develop and improve the quality of service for those most profoundly and directly impacted by sexual violence. Now, therefore, I, Henry Nackstead, Vice Mayor of the City of Kenai, Alaska, hereby proclaim April 2025 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the City of Kenai and urge all citizens to support and assist the Lee Shore Center as it continues its efforts to bring real hope for freeing the central Kenai Peninsula from the tragedy of sexual violence and exploitation.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate that on
Thank you.
behalf of the Lee Shore Center.
And
So,
thank you for everything you do.
yeah, we couldn't do it without the support of the community. I don't know if there needs to be any kind of public media or picture, or we're all good on that?
That's pretty much it.
Okay,
Okay, thank you very much.
great, thank you.
Okay, that brings us to item B, scheduled administrative reports. We have none. And we have scheduled public comments, and we have none. And item D is unscheduled public comments. Are there any members from the general public who would like to speak on any item not appearing on the agenda? Marion Nelson, welcome.
Short and sweet. The best thing happened to me this last week. I lost a cell phone that had been missing for 2 years, and amazingly, it wasn't dead. That's the big news. Now, the other news, we had a First Friday opening. You can all empathize with that, I know. And it had a big crowd this time for our First Friday opening, and music and lots of people coming. One of the things that's unique to this particular show is in the back room, the small gallery near the jail, is that parts of the past years, well, I can't even say past year, but past few years of murals were cut up, not cut up, but cut. They're a slightly different size, and which means then a very specific and careful restapling of them, for the most part, to new stretcher bars or stretcher material around them. And all of them have been handled very well, and consequently, all the artists have another shot at selling them and showing them, and it's worth looking at, to wander back there and take a look at that. Lots of good shows coming up, some pottery shows and so forth. Take a look at the cards that I left each of you. And more to come. Summer's here. Questions?
Any questions for Marion? Councilmember Daniel?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Where did you find the phone after 2 years? I'm curious.
It's one of those, well, you as a techie person would, in my offer I walk with my dog quite often in the hospital parking lot, and all round and about, and there's lots of different places. And it was in the winter, and I thought it had dropped out of my pocket, and it was a red phone. I have looked and looked and looked and looked, and left word with police. They're here and there. And so where did I find it? In the slot and the floor of my car, one of those metal areas that a 2-year-old phone can just fit right in. And I put my hand down there the other day. I could not believe it. And since it's quite red, there's no mistaking what it was. So I thought, well, this is a dead phone. I went over to ACS and just took them a few minutes, and it came to light. It's not, obviously not updated, but, and I haven't done that yet, so we'll see what Apple has to say to me about it. I don't want to pay anything.
We call that the-
Congratulations on finding that. I mean, my life is all tied up in this thing. Yeah. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak on any item not mentioned in the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, that brings us to public hearings. The first public hearing before us tonight is ordinance 3464, 2025, amending Kenai Municipal Code 2105085, airport fuel flowage fee, to remove the set amount in code and instead refer to the annual update schedule of rates, charges, and fees brought to us by administration. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Sonart.
I move to adopt ordinance number 3464-2025.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance 3464, 2025? Seeing no one, we'll bring it back to council. Discussion from council. Anybody online there? Okay. Seeing no one, clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Nakstad,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Councilmember Dothett,
Yes.
Councilmember Casena,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Daniel,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3464-2025 is enacted.
Yeah, thank you. Now we have item E2, ordinance number 3465, 2025, amending Kenai Municipal Code Title II, alcoholic beverages and marijuana, standardizing how licenses are reviewed by the city, allowing for administrative non-objection for renewal of existing licenses when no grounds to object to the renewal are identified. Updating public hearings for protest or conditional non-objections, aligning municipal code with requirements of Alaska statutes and other housekeeping amendments brought to us by the city clerk. Pleasure of council.
I
Councilmember Sonart.
move to adopt ordinance number 3465-2025.
I will second.
Moved and second. And is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance 3465, 2025? Seeing no one, we'll bring that back to council. Discussion. Councilmember Sonart.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nakstad. Maybe for the benefit of the online people that I see listed up there, maybe we could hear from the city clerk just what a synopsis of this is.
Thank you. To the Vice Mayor, back in April, we had this as a discussion item on the council agenda about allowing the administration to approve renewals of licenses when there's no changes whatsoever to the existing license. Council noted that they would still like to know who's operating. So this new code has a new section that brings forward once a year, a list of all of the liquor licenses that are currently operating. That would come forward towards the end of the year because they all expire December 31st, or their continuation is in December 31st. And then marijuana licenses would come forward in June because they all expire August 31st. Then we also codified the procedures that we're currently doing to review licenses. It's now included, which meant that we took the part about the police department's review out of its own section and put it in with everybody else, aligned the code to match closer to what the state allows for public hearing and appeals, and removed references to specific sections of state statute, and instead referenced the laws as they are because the state statute numbers can move sometimes. And are there any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions for the clerk? Councilmember Daniel.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just a quick question. If a complaint did arise, does council get notified? Does that come up during the renewal process, or is there a provision for that? I think there is, but could you help me out?
Thank you. Through the Vice Mayor. If there was complaints from citizens regarding a license, it would come up in our review process. And if there's grounds to protest, those would be brought forward for council's action. We cannot administratively protest a license. That's up to council. If there is no issues with the license, this will allow us to administratively approve them.
Any questions more from council or online? Mayor Gabriel?
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor Nakstad. Yeah, I think that pretty much covered. I just wanted to, I was going to suggest that too, and thank you, Councilmember Sonart and the clerk for just explaining this. So we do give the public the confidence that we are doing our review and due diligence on these as they come through for renewals. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further comments or questions, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Councilmember Dothit,
Yes.
Councilmember Casena,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Daniel,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Naxted.
Yes?
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3465, 2025 is enacted.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have item E3, ordinance number 3466, 2025, amending Kenai Municipal Code, Chapter 4.32, Residential Code, to reinstate provisions related to engineering design and location, including fire code protection on floors provisions of the 2021 International Residential Code brought to us by administration. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Sonart.
I move to adopt ordinance number 3466-2025.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance 3466, 2025? Seeing no one, we'll bring it back to council discussion. Councilmember Dothit.
Yes, I just see if I could have staff give us an overview of what this means and kind of why we're moving in this direction, I guess.
Mr. Ross?
Our building official, Joe Fisher, is here tonight, and I think he could probably give the best explanation.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Council. The first portion of this section R 301.1.3 engineered design, this section was deleted from the code in the adoption of the 2021 International Residential Code. What this section does is allows items outside of the prescriptive path of the code to be submitted in accordance with engineered design. Window and door headers are one example of it. A lot of things we see on a day-to-day basis, it doesn't mean it needs a stamped engineered plans. It has to be designed in accordance with engineered design, otherwise we are locked into the code or we have no rules. The second portion of that, the fire protection of floors. This is to align our codes up with the codes of the Alaska Housing Finance Corporation, City of Soldotna, Municipality of Anchorage. They all allow furnaces underfloor. Basically where this comes into place is with I-joist floor systems. And if you want to put a furnace in a crawl space, to the letter of the code, you'd have to sheetrock the ceiling of that crawl space. The other agencies around the state have allowed that with the smoke detector. Actually, Municipality of Anchorage allows it with no further protection. So the smoke and carbon monoxide detector still gives us some protection if we have a malfunction with the furnace, but allows the contractors to basically save money and make housing more affordable, hopefully. And so then a third portion of that is deleting a requirement for smoke detectors in the crawl space because they are covered by that other section, and that's kind of where it all ties in. Any other
Any
questions?
further questions?
Oh, no, thank you. I just wanted to, for clarification for people that are concerning this might be more of a hurdle or something. I just want a clarification of what it is, and it sounds like it's trying to alleviate some of these issues that we're having and finding as we're doing buildings. So thank you.
Any further questions? I want to say that I appreciate the changes you're making here, some of it reverting back a little bit, but they're kind of common sense, but if that's how our code was written, you know, you're kind of bound by it. I did forward the ordinance to a builder friend of mine, and he appreciated those changes too, for obvious reasons. So thank you very much for doing that. I'll be supporting this. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Dothit,
Yes.
Councilmember Casena,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Daniel,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Naxted,
Yes.
And Councilmember Askin.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3466-2025 is enacted.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to item E4, ordinance 3467, 2025, accepting and appropriating a grant received through the Alaska Animal Control Association to the Kenai Animal Shelter for attendance at the Kenai Animal Control Association 2025 Training Conference brought to us by administration. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Sonart.
I move to adopt ordinance number 3467-2025.
Second.
Okay, thank you. It's moved and seconded. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance 3467, 2025? Seeing no one, we'll bring it back to council. Discussion from council. No? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Casena,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Daniel,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nakstad,
Yes?
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Councilmember Dothett.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3467-2025 is enacted.
Okay, thank you. Now we have ordinance 3468, 2025, under item E5, accepting, appropriating, and a donation to the Kenai Community Library for the Summer Reading Program 2025, brought to us by administration. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Sonart.
I move to adopt ordinance number 3468-2025.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance 3468, 2025? Seeing no one, that brings us back to council. Is council discussion? Let me catch up here real quick. Oh, Councilmember Sonart, sorry.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nakstad. I just want to say, I think it's absolutely wonderful. It's really cool that, we have a private donation coming in, and this is going to help the summer reading program. And it's just very obvious that our community library is supported across our community. I mean, I think it's a good thing that, ever so often we see these things come across. And that means our community library is active, it's meeting the needs of our constituents, and it's being used. And it's like, bravo, yay.
Mayor Gabriel.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nakstad. Yeah, I just wanted to echo Councilmember Sonar's comments, and then also say that when we do our State of the City address with the city manager, this, and we highlight the library, this is a pretty impressive program that they run over there, the summer reading program, and the number of participants they get in there is quite large. So encouraging our youth to read and become interested in books at an early age is very important. So thank you to the Derek Coffin Fund.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank Derek Kaufman as well for his generous donation and any help through Hillcorp too that helped provide that too. So, any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Daniel,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nakstad,
Yes?
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Councilmember Dothett,
Yes.
Councilmember Casena.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3468-2025 is enacted.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have item E6, ordinance 3469, 2025, amending Kenai Municipal Code 1.85.060, conflicts of interest prohibited to allow municipal officers and city employees to participate in certain sales open to the public through a public process and narrowing the existing prohibition on purchases to personal property claims, brought to us by Councilmember Dothett. Pleasure of council, Councilmember Dothett. It's yours.
Okay, somebody else. I move to approve ordinance 3469, 2025.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance 3469, 2025? Seeing no one, we'll bring it back to council. Discussion from council. Councilmember Dothett, you want to present this?
Sure, I'll go ahead and present this. It's in our packets, but I'm just going to go ahead and read the whereases here. I think it points out the purposes and why this came about, and a very clear and defined reasoning. So I'm just going to go and read this. Whereas in 2008, KMC 1.85.060, conflicts of interest prohibited, was last amended by ordinance 2319-2008 to include a prohibition prohibiting municipal officials and employees from acquiring surplus or unneeded property of the city. Whereas the available legislative history indicates the intent of the ordinance of 2319-2008 related to prohibitions of acquiring city property was to prohibit municipal officers and employees from bidding on items in the city's annual surplus auction. However, the provisions can be interpreted to prohibit municipal officers or employees from acquiring anything from the city, whether it is personal or real property, which is broader than necessary to protect the public interest and could have unnecessary adverse consequences. And whereas, while it is the city's best interest to have laws regarding conflicts of interest and ethics that hold government officers and employees responsible and provide transparency for the public, employees and municipal officers should not be prohibited from all arm's length transparent public sales made generally available to the public. And whereas the proposed amendment continues to prohibit against bidding in the city's annual surplus auction and also strikes a reasonable balance by allowing municipal officers and employees to purchase real property from the city when offered to a general public in an arm's length transaction, and the employee or officer has no information regarding the property or sales process that is not available to the general public. And it goes on with some more supporting documentation inside of this. I feel this is important. We want the people that work for our city, both with compensation and without, to be able to purchase land and build and develop within our city. And this allows them to do that. It allows people that, if we want to build and purchase property that goes up for a public auction, then they would be able to bid on it. And if they're willing to pay more than somebody from out of town, then they could acquire that. At the last auction, it was brought to attention, and it's in here that we would have had an employee that would have qualified for the veterans discount that wasn't eligible to try to purchase property within the city. And I feel this is important to allow the people that are most vested in this community to be able to develop property in this community. So that's why we brought this forward.
Okay, further discussion, Councilmember Sonart.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nackstead. So for clarification, Councilmember Dothett, if this ordinance were to pass, would this put the city of Kenai in line with what the Kenai Borough already does in precedent?
Yes, this was essentially aligning us with what the borough already allows. Borough employees can purchase borough land sales and those kind of things.
And so to be clear, the ordinance only deals with real estate property, and the surplus equipment that comes up for sale and auction is still off limits, correct?
Yes, this is what the original ordinance in 2319-2008 was. When we ran back and looked at the minutes, it was relating to equipment auctions and those kind of things through public surplus type equipment, not necessarily with the intent of limiting sales at an open air market, which is still in this for not allowing employees to bid on items in that aspect, but they could bid on real property. So like when we go to our land sales, if we're doing other land sales, people that work here in an open auction can bid, and it allows them to be able to develop and bid on those lands within the city.
Okay, we have two online. Let's start with Councilmember Askin.
I think my questions were answered. I wanted to verify that it was just for outcry auctions and there wouldn't be information that other people, that the council might have access to that the public wouldn't. And I think you answered my question. Thanks.
Mayor Gabriel.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nackstead. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm a no vote on this. And I get, the purpose of bringing it forward, but I think from a optic standpoint, we need to have a, perception that, even if some implied conflict of interest or perception, if we're having our council members bid on land. I went through and read the memo regarding, which was stated in the memo on the actual code section that said a municipal officer or employee of the city of Kenai is prohibited from bidding upon or otherwise obtaining any property which is unneeded or surplus by the city. To me, that was kind of clear intent. I would offer an amendment. Maybe I will after I listen to a little bit more discussion to actually just exempt the municipal officers and based on information that a city employee could have qualified for a veteran discount to go ahead and bid on these. But, from my perspective, I don't think it's just worth the, the perception we're going to receive from the public if we have people, council members or municipal officers that are now when we're actually allowed to bid on this too, keep in mind we would be competing against that veteran employee who's trying to get that property. So that's my feeling on it. I get the idea of trying to get the most money for those properties. I don't think that's going to move the needle very much, allowing our officers to do that. So, and with that, I'll listen to what everybody else has to say.
Councilmember Casena.
Thank you. Yeah, I would say that broadly speaking, I have some concerns about this as well. Kind of 5 categories is what my notes that I put together are. Some people already mentioned, I think the perceived reduction in ethical standards, or maybe the perceived effect this might have on members of the public. I think there's some difficulty with enforcement challenges. How do you enforce who does and doesn't have information about these parcels, whether it's employees or city council members? And then similarly, it's along that same line, there is an extra involvement that elected officials have in the process, whether it's approving a master plan for land use. Several years ago, elected officials did that. And so we were able to affect what land got earmarked as something that could go to bid or not. That's beyond what a normal city resident might be able to do. And then here, as a council member, we also have the opportunity to have some additional knowledge on what things go to that auction. And so for those 2 reasons, I'm opposed, but then I also worry about how do you manage what is insider access. As elected officials especially, we're financially compensated to be present and be involved and informed of what's going on in the city. And members of the public, whether outside or inside the city limits, I think it's disingenuous to say that they have the same access to that information. I mean, they do, by the letter of the law, they certainly do have access to that same information. But to say they have the same ability is not the same. Many people are still working. Many people would not have time for these things to learn that there are auctions or that specific land is available. And so the perception of that's bad. While it might not break any letter of the law, I think morally it seems gray for me, especially as an elected official. I think to Mayor Gabriel's point, maybe there could be an amendment made for employees, but especially for elected officials, I just don't see a real clear benefit to the public for us to be able to bid on that property. So likewise, that would be a no.
Councilmember Doffett.
Well, I'd have to respectfully reiterate that I don't see it as a conflict of interest, and it is allowed in many, many other communities, and including our borough, to be able to do this very same thing. And we're talking about, when you say elected officials, are you talking about every board and commission member on this in the city? Because they're not necessarily elected, they're nominated. Most of them aren't getting paid. would they be able to bid on properties? I'm curious of what the thought was on there. And all this information, when the city land goes for auction, is all public. It's advertised publicly. It's made aware of what property is. If anybody had any questions when they wanted to bid on it, they can come to the city and dig into the records of the city. It's not like it's hidden as to what the land is. It's just if somebody has the need for a property that lives within our city, they could bid on it. And I guess I'm just not sure why I think by not approving this, we're adding to the cloak and dagger, or the cloaks of maybe somebody's doing something wrong all the time. And I don't see that being the issue. And when this was adopted, if you go back and you look at the meeting minutes from back when this originally was put into place, they were specifically talking about issues with equipment sales and those kind of things. It was never mentioned about the land sales. So that's my opinion on that.
Okay. Just a comment, I did call, actually, there's like 4 people that were at that meeting that were on council. I called one, and it did have to do with land too. But, so I just had to call. It was just that easy. But I do have a question regarding the ordinance here specifically, and that would be, I think I heard that this is only for outcry auction. But what it does say is that, if I'm understanding it, is any kind of bid. So basically, if somebody wants to purchase a piece of property, it becomes a sealed bid type of situation, I understand. So how is it only, can you show me where this is only an outcry auction sale?
I guess I would have to revert back to the city attorney on that one, as far as for clarification on what you're trying to accomplish there. I'm not sure on that one, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Councilmember or Attorney Bloom?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Naxted. So what this prohibits would be the acquisition of any property through a negotiated sale or lease not available or advertised to the general public.
If I could, I believe that if we have somebody that comes forward and wants to buy Tract A, they pay for an appraisal, they put in a bid, and that it becomes advertised locally, and others get to bid on that property also. Bids are opened, and would that not fall under this?
So if it was a sale that was publicly advertised, and anybody, municipal official or employee, was not in a position to obtain information available to the general public with regard to the property itself, or in the process of the sale, then they could submit a bid.
So then it's therefore not just outcry auction.
Correct. It's not specifically limited to an outcry auction.
But it would still be publicly notified and available to the public and advertised as the ability to bid on that auction item.
Right. Be a sealed bid type of affair. And I have a legal question too, within the whereas. I think it was mentioned twice at arm's length, and I want to know, I Googled what that means, but I'm not an attorney. If you could explain what arm's length means and how that would pertain to, let's say, the city manager, the planner, or the city council for that matter, even on an outcry auction where we approve lands to be, auctioned off.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Naxted, members of council. So an arm's length transaction has a connotation, and I guess it sort of has 3 parts to the definition. Generally, the parties don't have a special relationship. For example, family. Arm's length transaction generally would not be a son purchasing a property from a father. Also, it would not be somebody that has access to confidential information, and also it would be people that have equal bargaining power. So not somebody, say, if council was let me think of it differently. If, say, I'll use Tyler here. If Terry is Tyler's boss, so Terry has position, a bargaining power that Tyler doesn't have. So that might not be an arm's length transaction if Tyler was purchasing something from his boss.
So the seven of us are Terry's boss, city managers, so that's going the other direction, and so that doesn't apply to council?
So I think in general, it would be a very unique situation where the city manager, the city attorney, or even the city planner probably was not in a position where they had special knowledge about a piece of property. So I think the limitations that are being proposed, that the person is not in a position to obtain information not available to the general public with regard to the process, the property itself, or the process of sale. Obviously, I'm going to review anything, so I'm probably going to be prohibited from purchasing it. Terry's the one that has to administratively approve the process and the sale, and our planner would probably prepare a lot of the paperwork and that sort of thing. So I think by the definition that's proposed, there's certain people that are almost always going to be prohibited from purchasing property.
Councilmember Askin?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I've read through this ordinance like 4 times and I keep switching back and forth, and I'm afraid I'm probably landing on a no vote because I think it gives the appearance of impropriety, and I think what we have now protects our council and our administration from anything looking wrong or looking bad, and we have a really good reputation as a solidly managed city, and I think I'm going to have to go with a no because I just think it gives the appearance that impropriety could occur. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Councilmember Doffett? Sonart?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nexted. I'm pretty much in the no camp for elected officials having access to this because it does reek of impropriety. However, when I think about all the people that are serving on commissions who are not getting remunerated in any way, shape, or form, and they're giving their time, their talent, and their efforts simply because they love the city of Kenai, I would hate for those people to be negated out of the process when they very well likely could be somebody who could bid on a piece of land and do something worthy with it, simply because they love the city of Kenai. So I'm wondering if there would be some way to separate out us elected people from the non-elected people, or am I just walking into the weeds? Somebody just tell me, Sonar, get out of the weeds.
Mr. Bloom?
Thank you, Councilmember Sonart, Vice Mayor Nexted. So right now, the way the status quo is, employees can't do it, members of the city council can't do it, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission can't do it, and the city attorney, city manager, and city clerk. All the other commission members can bid on it, status quo right now. It's called, the definition of municipal officers is specific to city council, planning and zoning commission, and then your 3 employees.
Question for Mr. Bloom again. If I heard some talk about some amendments and the title of the ordinance includes municipal officers. If that were to change, could that be done within this ordinance, or would it have to come back as a different ordinance?
So the title is to give notice to the public what we're talking about, and I think if you removed municipal officers from this, there would still be sufficient public notice. The public's on notice that this is what's being talked about tonight, and removing it I don't think is going to affect the public's ability to do that.
Councilmember Sonar.
Okay, and last question for the think tank here. With anybody with borough experience, if our elected borough assembly people are allowed to bid and purchase borough land, has there ever been any negative connotations with that privilege? I've not ever heard anything come across.
I'm not aware of any.
Councilmember Dodd, did you have something you wanted to
I
add?
just said I'm not aware of any. Personally, I don't know of any. And that's where this came from, was basically trying to transparency to the borough.
Mayor Gabriel.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nexted. So just to follow up on a line of questioning that the Vice Mayor had to Mr. Bloom, the way our current code reads, if somebody goes into City Hall and makes an offer on a piece of property, what are the next steps? Does it go to a bid style from there for an advertisement for to the general public? I mean,
Thank you. Through the Vice Mayor, Mayor Gabriel. So unfortunately, it's a little bit complicated in the sense that the way the city land sales are geared right now, if somebody were to come in, say on a commercial piece of property to the city, submit an application to purchase it, we have certain development requirements. And so what we would do is if they submitted an application, we would then advertise to the general public that the city was thinking about selling or leasing this piece of property to them. But it's not necessarily a high bid situation because we're requiring development. And the way our code is right now, it allows the city to analyze what type of development might be most beneficial to the city. So for example, if somebody came in and submitted an application to purchase a piece of property and they wanted to build an auto shop, a car part shop, and nothing against car part shops, but say we already have several in the city, and somebody else submitted a competing bid to build a convention center, something that the city's been interested in developing for a long time. The city's not obligated to go with the highest purchase price. We can look at what type of proposed development would be most beneficial to the city.
follow up. So under this proposed code change ordinance, then could a council member initiate a sale knowing that it'll be advertised?
So could a council member come in and submit an application to purchase a piece of property from the city? I think if that piece of property was listed as on our land management plan as for disposal, and it was gonna be advertised, it potentially, I think that could be allowed under this code as long as it was available to somebody, the general public, under the same terms and conditions that it would be allowable or available to a council member.
Yeah, okay. And Vice Mayor, if I may, just that's sort of what this sort of the weeds that I think we're kind of getting into, and the improprieties. And I think that, you know, since I've been on council, I feel we've always held ourselves to a pretty high standard as far as you know, perception goes and things like that. And you know, the whole thing, because, you know, the borough doesn't, I don't necessarily think that that's you know, we only offer so many properties. I think this is sort of, you know, I threw out that question because I think we're sort of in a tangent or maybe unintended consequence we could get into down the road. We had 13 pieces of property, I think, that we had on our last land sale. And, you know, you're talking about probably smaller numbers of total pieces of property when we do that. But you could have a possibility in that case where you have, let's say you have 10 parcels and 3 or 4 of them go to city employee or, you know, council members. You know, I just, that doesn't look very good. And I don't know who's vetting the knowledge part of it, like, you know, if they have knowledge of that. So, but there's the perception if that happens and it happens to work out for a council member, then they're always going to, the public's going to think that they had the inside track to some degree. So with that, I think since I'm remote, and I'll just throw this out to Councilmember Sonart, that if she's, you know, willing to, you know, maybe take a pause and work with the city attorney on a quick amendment regarding city employees still being allowed and maybe other commission members to be able to bid on those, then I would be for that.
Councilmember Sonart?
Yes, I will accept that.
Okay.
And just to follow up, I didn't mean to cut off any other deliberation on this either. Just, I didn't know who else was willing to speak.
Councilmember Dothett?
So I think it was brought up, you had mentioned to remove the allow municipal officers, so I guess would that be a starting point for Ms. Sonart's possible amendment?
Are we taking a break now? I thought we were gonna meet with the attorney rather than cite, Councilmember Sonart.
Can we break now?
Okay, let's take a break, 15 minutes.
Could I, Councilmember Naxted and Mayor Gabriel and Councilmember Sonart and Councilmember Dothett, I would just say if this wasn't time sensitive, just because there's a lot to this ordinance, and I think some of the whereas clauses would need to change potentially. And I don't know, Councilmember Dothett, it's certainly your ordinance, and I don't know if you might be supportive of some of these amendments or not. If we could postpone and come back with written amendments at the next meeting?
So I guess if you'd like, I could postpone for the next meeting. I guess my recommendation from the feeling of this board would be to, or this council would, if we can, because the ultimate reason I was writing this was for the city employees and the veterans that we're wanting to do, and the people that are working for the city that I think are wanting to show a vested interest. So I would like to move forward with possibly postponing, but writing it to where basically we would take out the municipal officers, which from my understanding would be council, planning and zoning, and then the city manager and attorney and clerk.
Councilmember Dothett, I think we just need a motion to postpone, and then you could work with the attorney on whatever it is and bring it back, and there may be some third or fourth thing. So if you want to make a
Well,
motion
I
to
was
that
just
effect.
putting it out there to see if anybody else wanted to agree with that, and then before we moved it, so we didn't have to redo it at the next meeting, if we can discuss it now, so that's kind of my ideas on it.
Councilmember Daniel?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Naxted. I think that's reasonable. That sounds like a reasonable amendment, and I would support that and agree we should take it up at the next meeting.
I just want to say I'll review whatever comes back. I'm not going to say I'm going to support it until I see it.
I understand that, but as the general idea and the consensus would be, that would be what we'd be moving forward. So I would move to table this until postpone, excuse me, not table, wrong verbiage. Move to postpone this till the 21st meeting? Yes, 21st meeting.
Have a second?
Second.
Before you vote on it, I'll work with Councilmember Dothett as the sponsor to bring forward any amendments he has. Also, if there's any other council members that have other amendments that they'd like to see, it'd be nice if we could get those in writing prior to the next meeting, so I'd be happy to work with anybody else as well.
Okay.
That'll work. I think, Vice Mayor Knox said, if I may. I could sidebar with Councilmember Sonart if she's up for that, to just sort of dial in on what we were talking about as well.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Daniel?
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Naxted?
Yes?
Councilmember Askin?
Yes.
Councilmember Dothett?
Yes.
Councilmember Casena?
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel?
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3469-2025 is postponed to May 21st, 2025.
Okay, thank you. That brings us now to item E7, Resolution 2025-27, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the State of Alaska Department of Natural Resources for a utility easement for the city water main, brought to us by administration. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Sonart.
Hang on, make sure I get the right number. I move to enact resolution number 2025-27.
Second, unanimous consent?
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to Resolution 2025-27? Okay, seeing no one, brings it back to council. Unanimous consent was requested. Any discussion? Questions? City manager, acting city manager? Unanimous consent was requested. So Resolution 2025-27. Pardon me? I can't hear you. Is there any objections to unanimous consent? Sorry, I was implying that, I suppose. Seeing no objections, Resolution 2025-27 is adopted. That brings us to Resolution 2025-28, authorizing contract award for purchase of water and wastewater chemicals, brought to us by administration. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Sonart.
I move to enact resolution number 2025-28.
Second, unanimous consent?
Okay, moved and seconded. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to Resolution 2025-28? Okay, seeing no one. Discussion from council? Anybody online? Councilmember Daniel.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Naxa. Just a quick question. Is this, for the city manager, is this for the year, or is this just 6 months? These chemicals look a little spendy.
Councilman Daniel, I'm going to defer to our Public Works Director, Lee Fry. He'll probably have a better answer than I will.
Thank you. This is an anticipated annual supply for our chemical purchase for the water treatment facility and the wastewater treatment facility. Costs have been going up, I'd say, in the last 5 years. We have seen some tariff increases as well to prices that have made them jump. We're also working on changing some chemical usage at the water treatment plant to bring these costs down as well.
Any further questions? Unanimous consent was requested. Are there any objections? Okay, seeing none, Resolution 2025-28 is adopted. So that brings us down to item E9, Resolution 2025-29, authorizing contract award for Aliac Stormwater Rehab Design, brought to us by administration. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Sonart.
I move to enact resolution number 2025-29.
Second, unanimous consent?
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to Resolution 2025-29? Seeing no one, bring it back. Oh, yeah, well, there's nobody from the general public. Seeing no one, we'll bring it back to council. Thank you very much. Councilmember Sonart, do you have a comment?
Oh, I did?
Well, you can still comment. It's a water issue. Well, if there aren't any, well, it's not a water, yeah, it's stormwater. I guess I do have a question through the acting city manager. Just curious about what the, it's Aliac Street, but what the scope of work is, what end, what kind of work is it specifically? West end, east end?
Thanks for the question, Vice Mayor. Again, I'm going to defer to Mr. Fry.
Thank you. I need to pull up a map really quick because I do not have all my streets memorized as of yet.
Mr. Fry, while you're looking, we could have a question from, or a comment from Mayor Gabriel. Would it be okay if we just
Yes.
let him, Mayor Gabriel, go ahead?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Next. Just, no objection. I was just curious where Bell and Associates are located. I know McLean and Nelson, but I'm not familiar with Bell. I'm not objecting or anything like that. I'm just curious.
They're an Anchorage-based company.
Okay, thank you.
And so I do have the map pulled up. So the main of this storm drain starts between Candlelight and High Bush Lane is where the termination of the storm drain is. And the line runs down Eliac just past, I believe it's Blarney and Brannigan, where there's some, excuse me, storm drains in the ditches on the side that capture the storm water for the system. So it's just a failing storm drain that we're looking to remove and replace with some other infrastructure to capture that storm water.
Okay, so it's down toward the Beaver Creek end, sort of?
Yeah.
Down there. It doesn't make it back to the high school. I noticed there's a failing manhole there.
No, it
Kind
does
of
not.
You know, so it's not down there too?
No, it's not down there.
Thank you. Okay. Any further questions? Unanimous consent was requested. Are there any objections? Seeing none, Resolution 2025-29 is adopted. So that brings us to item E10, Resolution 2025-30, approving amendments to the agreement for contract services for Vintage Points Manor Congregate Housing, brought to us by administration. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Sonart.
I move to enact resolution number 2025-30.
Second, unanimous?
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to Resolution 2025-30? Seeing no one, that brings us back to council discussion. Councilmember Daniel.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Naxton. Just a quick question. I know this is for the city manager, or potentially Ms. Romaine, since she's here. I've heard wonderful things about Mr. Sadler. I was curious if what services he provides over at the housing.
Ms. Romaine, if you could give an answer to that.
Councilman Daniel, through the city manager. Mr. Sadler provides an enormous amount. When his initial contract comes through, it is quite lengthy. He is not only in charge of daily having open office hours. He has four hours a day that he's open office hours. Most of the time, he can be on on-call basis 24/7. But he also cleans the entire building on a weekly, sometimes daily basis, whatever needs, buys supplies that are needed for the building that are not, janitorial, toilet tissue, that sort of thing, for the bathrooms, the commons areas. But he also regularly inspects every bit of the mechanical, all of the mechanical, every bit of the air handlers, the boiler systems, and does that on a regular basis as well. A lot of his, in the wintertime especially, we see a lot of his extra time that he's negotiated this extra $1.50 an hour for. This winter wasn't so much. Averages from the increase, we'd see an extra $150 to $350 a year. If we have a lot of snow, we'd see it, that's how much it would impact our budget. So.
Okay, good with that. Any further questions? Anybody online? Okay, it doesn't look like it. So unanimous consent was requested. Are there any objections? Okay, seeing no objections, Resolution 2025-30 is enacted. Now we're on item E11, Resolution 2025-31, amending the Kenai Municipal Cemetery Regulations and Fee Schedule Policy numbering ITPRK 70.001, revising marker and headstone regulations and making other housekeeping amendments, brought to us by the clerk. Pleasure of councils. Councilmember Sonart.
I move to enact resolution number 2025-31.
Second, unanimous?
Okay, moved and seconded. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to Resolution 2025-31? Seeing none, that brings us back to council. I think it might be a good opportunity for the clerk to kind of explain what we're doing here, or what she's suggesting.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nexted. So what happened, our current policy conflicts what's going on at the cemetery. We can intern up to 3 people in one location. However, our current policy only allows 1 marker. So what we're doing is allowing 3 markers per internment location with 1 upright, and it also currently requires that the markers stay within the confines of the plot itself. And a lot of times, there's more than 1 plot purchased together side by side, and this new policy, the changes will allow 1 marker to go across two internment sites or multiple family internment sites. And then we also cleaned up the language and the internment locations were referred to in multiple ways in this, so just since we were in here, we cleaned that language up and changed it all to internment locations or internment plots. Available for questions?
Any questions for the city clerk? Councilmember Doffett.
No question, just a comment. Thank you for doing this. We had a pretty in-depth discussion about this at the Parks and Rec meeting, and I'm glad to see we're moving forward with these. These are important things to be taken care of, and I'm glad we're making an initiative to resolve some of these little issues that can make big effects for family members.
Thank you. Any further questions? Anybody online? Move on. Saying no further questions, unanimous consent was requested. Are there any objections? Saying none, Resolution 2025-31 is enacted. So that brings us down to new business H6, facility use report brought to us by administration. So I suppose this is a discussion item. So acting City Manager Ross, you want to fill this in?
Vice Mayor and Council, I did spend some time talking to the city manager about this discussion item. So in city code, there's specific to the last policy about the cemetery, that would come to council. But most facilities, the policies of operating those facilities, it doesn't say in code to come to council. And there's 45 plus facilities around the city. So it's not, and in the past, some policies have come to council, even though it's not laid out in code. So I think it's kind of the intention of the administration, not necessarily to bring policies to the council unless it's called out in code like that one. You know, the commissions might discuss policies and they come back to administration, but if it's not called out in code to come back to council, then the city administration would just move forward with those policies as city administration. But I think he wanted, the city manager wanted discussion among council. If there are policies and if there are specific policies that council does want to see, then he would like to be directed in that, because he definitely wants to do what you guys to see what you want to see, but doesn't want to bring necessarily policies that aren't defined in code to come to council unless that's what you guys want.
Any questions? I guess the question I have is that we've had existing policies for various buildings and facilities for quite some time. And and this has been the city manager's job, basically, to establish those and adhere to them and adjust them and all of that. That's correct? And has that worked out well so far?
Correct. I'm not aware of any issues. I think sometimes that certain policies come before commissions and there might be some talk whether they should come to council or not, and if there's interest, that was his thing. But certainly there are facility policies across the city that do not come to council on a regular basis.
Councilmember Daniel, you're first.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So just to be clear, the ask here, for the acting city manager is keep doing what we're doing, or looking for more direction depending on what council wants, and like, do we want to get more nitty gritty? Is that the ask, just looking for direction right now on what we have?
I think that's correct. I think there are some policies, maybe with regards to parks or other things that have come to council in the past, but it's not laid out in code that they would. So if there's not policies that you want to see there, they're probably not going to come before council unless code tells them to, unless there's some special interest from council. That was my take on the city manager's interest in this discussion. If there's policies that you guys want to see that you're not seeing, he wants to make sure you do. Otherwise, that they would be handled administratively unless called out in code.
Mayor Gabriel?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nexted. My email or phone is not blowing up, to be totally honest, on any sort of policy regarding our facilities. That being said, so I guess I don't necessarily object the way we're doing it now. That being said, is there, if for some reason a council member wanted to review a policy, is this something that they can, or review all the policies, or, I don't think I know them all, to be honest with you, they're all individual. Is that something that the city manager could provide, or, if they have that interest?
Chief Ross?
Mayor, certainly, I think any policy that the city creates is not only public information, but certainly could be available to the council.
Very good. Yeah, like I said, I have no objection to the way things are being managed now. So I think a lot of times these things are, driven by public complaint and things like that, or policy changes. So thank you.
Councilmember Dothett?
And I'd just like to agree with Mayor Gabriel on that. I think we have the ability to review them, and if we get told by the public that there's an issue, we can always bring it up, but we have good staff that can handle a lot of the little stuff all the time, and there's lots of stuff that we don't necessarily have to be privy to every single day, and I think this falls into those categories. If there's an issue with the public, they'll come to us, and then we'll find out, and then we can address it then, for sure.
I agree with Councilmember Dothett and the mayor as well. I mean, I think the city manager needs to manage the city. That's his or her job. They do that, and if something comes up that we become aware of, then it's our job to inquire with the city manager what's going on, maybe review that policy. It could be something even, the policy has to have some flexibility in just in managing it. It could be that could be a person that is having difficulty with, let's say, the library or sports rec or whatever. Maybe they get banned for a short period of time or something. That would be in the policy. And we're probably not going to get the full story from somebody else, but we'll have that opportunity to let this, to talk to the city manager and let him do his job. So I think the way it's working is just fine personally. Pretty much a nod of heads. See Councilmember Sonart. Okay, thumbs up. Councilmember Askin? Nod?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I appreciate the question. So that gets us to item H7, a discussion unsafe driving through parking lots, also known as rat running, buttressed by administration. So Chief Ross, you want to tell us about rat running in city?
Vice Mayor, thank you, and council. So this is an issue that's been going on for probably better than a year primarily at the visitor center. And it's vehicles speeding across the parking lot there to avoid the traffic signal, either going into Old Town Kenai or coming out of Old Town Kenai. They avoid the stop sign there on Overland, and then they avoid the traffic light. So the city administration's tried a number of things with the visitor center, including blocking that exit onto the highway and then directing that exit onto the highway. And we've talked about it administratively. The city managers talked to Public Works about it, and the visitor center, in addition to the police department, we've put police cars there to try to mitigate that. It does for a little while. So the city manager brought up to me an ordinance that he found in other cities that made it illegal to cross parking lots and such in order to get from one street to another to avoid the signal. I contacted both enforcement people in Fairbanks and Anchorage to see, because they both have those ordinances, to see how those ordinances work there. The person I talked to in Fairbanks indicated it worked very well. Anchorage, if I recall correctly, had written about 20 citations for it per year for each of the last 20 years, I think is what it averaged out to. So they use it in Anchorage. I didn't see the ordinance in too many small municipalities, but it is a tool that could be used to cite individuals that are avoiding the traffic signal by crossing a parking lot. And I think in conjunction with other measures, it, could be a deterrent to that. So I think the city manager is looking for, if there's support to create an ordinance to make it illegal to do that, and if so, he would bring back that ordinance at the next council meeting or a future council meeting to make a law against, crossing the parking lot to avoid the signal, and there would be a fine added to the bail schedule for that citation. Currently, there's nothing in state law that prohibits that. Really, the only citations in state law police can cite people for in a parking lot is reckless driving or DUI. There's not, the other rules of the road don't apply in parking lots. So I think that basically covers it. He's looked into the prices you can see there and some solutions for that parking lot, putting in new speed bumps that have kind of worn down over the years and putting in a new entrance onto the highway, adjusting that. Those both have some cost to them, and they're in his memo. Outside of that, a citation, an ordinance making it illegal is a tool. I don't think it, is a solution that would satisfy everybody and immediately solve everything, but it's a tool in the toolbox. So I'll stop at that.
Councilmember Sonart.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Naxted. I'm just curious, are there any other hot spots where these rats are running other than the visitor center?
Councilman Sonart, Councilperson Sonart. I'd actually not heard that term till the city manager pointed that term out. So I think it does happen in other places. I don't think the police department gets many other complaints. I think this has been the big one the last couple of years. There's really not that many places in Kenai. There's a couple, but traffic is usually not so heavy at those intersections that it's worth. This is commonly a gas station thing in towns where they're hitting the red light and they're zipping across the gas station parking lot or whatever in Anchorage. There's not that many in Kenai where you save a lot of time. So I think it happens, and there may have been complaints about it, but there's not many other spots.
Councilmember Doffett.
I know I'd spoke with the director of the chamber, and they seem to think the right, what they've done now where there's the right only turn has been working the best solution that they've had so far, and they'd love to be able to see that kept up, but they also reiterate that any tools they can use to prevent that would be great, but it really is a safety issue, and I personally think that if we have another tool in our tool belt, that's important to have. I agree with the city manager on having this move forward. I think it's going to be one of those things where in a small community, the first one or two people that get written, that will spread the word quite quickly that we shouldn't be doing that, and that's going to probably be something that doesn't get written very often after it does, or even once they're made aware that they could get a citation, even if it's just a warning in the beginning, as long as they know there's something on the books that they could possibly get that citation. That also, word of mouth, I think, will also help reiterate that, because right now, what is being done is helping immensely, but having another tool in there would be great. I do agree with this. I'd like to see it moving forward for sure.
Councilmember Casena.
Big fan of tools in the toolbox here. Before I make my maybe devil's advocate comment or question, I'm just curious, could this type of ordinance be abused in a situation where maybe, let's say I left the, what is the gas station called now, Circle K, and drove over to Mickey D's? That's a pretty practical approach to drive through the Three Bears parking lot and the O'Reilly's parking lot over to Mickey D's, but, and so I'm just curious if it would apply to that as well.
Counselor Casena, that is a discussion I had with the city manager, and I think the way it would be proposed to be written would be to go from one right-of-way, public right-of-way across a parking lot to another public right-of-way, not going through one parking lot to get to the other. So if you were going from connected parking lots, it wouldn't apply. If you're going through the Safeway parking lot to get to Home Depot, that wouldn't be the same as, cutting across to get from one street to another street.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I guess what I'm thinking is this is specifically for parking lots, but it might, some of the controls you're looking at might also apply to, maybe subdivisions too, as far as, I think what I'm going to hear, so I thought somebody was going to mention speed humps, speed bumps and that kind of stuff. And I think I heard that in this room tonight, earlier, on a subdivision, because people get going kind of fast and kind of forget about themselves and all that. So I was wondering if there might be some possibility of not just looking at parking lots, but maybe specific neighborhoods or something where if you get more complaints, say, that I don't know if the city's ever put out speed humps that are mobile, but that might be something to consider in what you're looking at here. Did you discuss any of that by chance?
Vice Mayor Nack said, we did not discuss neighborhoods in regard to this discussion. There are temporary speed bumps that are put out on the road to the boat launch. There are Eagle Rock every year to slow that traffic down. I'm not sure, the logistics of that, the cost or the effort, but certainly that's something that could be discussed. I'm not sure. I wouldn't make any promises today about what that costs or where we could do that, but it's certainly a discussion that we could have with the city manager.
Yeah, just a personal experience of coming out of my neighborhood. I drive, it's an odd number, 17 miles an hour. It's a 25 mile an hour. But that shouldn't really deter it or slow anybody down, but they pile up behind me, just coming out that little way. And so I do that, and I'm going to say that, we have a speed limit, and that's fine. You're not breaking the law by going the speed limit, but there's cars parked both sides, there's cars parked in driveways, and there's little kids and balls and dogs. They come flying out, and at least twice, going 17 miles an hour, I was able to easily stop. And if I was going faster than that and slightly distracted, I don't know. So it's really not a question on our speed limits, but it's just what is safe driving in a neighborhood may not be the speed limit. And so sometimes you just gotta encourage people to drive slower sometimes, and speed humps or bumps or something like that helps. I can't drive everybody's neighborhood at 17 miles an hour though.
On that note, with the speed bumps, they have had them in the past there, but they're quite expensive to, as we can see in the packet, to get re-put back into that subdivision, or not subdivision, into that parking lot, and they do get cut down and shaved down over the years, and we'll be right back where we are. So that's why I think what we're doing with the right-hand turn is a great idea, and then having that ability to, like I said, I think it will spread like wildfire into the community that is cutting across there to not do it. They know that there's a ticketable offense for it now.
Councilmember Daniel.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nack said. Just two quick things. I too would be supportive of having a tool belt, but my question for you is one for acting city manager is when you say reckless driving, what does that entail now? Like, what does that mean in terms of enforcement? Like, what can we do now? I'm just curious. And then the other question is, are we going to see something proposed in regards to the speed bumps in addition to the enforcement, or are we just talking enforcement right now and that we take them at a later date?
Counselor Daniel, so reckless driving has a specific statute. It's not in our code, it's a criminal act. And and it has to endanger people, and it's a pretty high threshold to actually get it prosecuted. Just going over the speed or a high rate of speed. If you're going 100 miles an hour across the parking lot, we could charge you with reckless driving. If you're going 20 or 30, you're not going to get charged with reckless driving. Wouldn't meet that standard. Probably the people that are going across that parking lot that are perceived a high rate of speed is really not. It's probably 20 miles an hour or something. I haven't speed radared them, but I can't believe they're getting up that high. It's not that big a parking lot. So reckless driving is really not a useful thing unless somebody is, spinning Brodies and really being reckless in the parking lot. And the second part of your question was speed bumps. I think he's looking at a dual approach of doing something with that parking lot, more than just enforcement. One of the things I talked to him about is, if we rely totally on enforcement, I think that leaves a lot of people frustrated. The people that want enforcement when we don't have enough resources to spend there, and the people that get it enforced against them. So I would definitely like to see a dual approach of some design that helps encourage that, and I think that is his interest. I'm not sure his thoughts on timing for speed bumps or other design, but he is interested in a dual approach.
Agreed. Thank you for that. So I shouldn't speak for council, but I would like to see both the enforcement brought forth and whatever solution the administration thinks would be ideal for solving the issue in the parking lot and a physical deterrent. Thank you.
So are we just kind of looking for a nod to let the administration come up with something for us?
Vice Mayor Naxted, yes, I think the real question here was the city administration recommends this combined approach and will bring back some legislation if that is agreeable to council. Obviously, you'll get a chance to approve that legislation or disprove it when it comes before you, but he didn't want to bring it back if it was, if you guys had a clear opinion against that.
Based on everything I heard here, I think we're all in agreement. Since we all drive and we're all experts, make sure we have plenty of time to discuss it. Right? Any further discussion before we move on? Okay, so that brings us down to commission reports. Council on Aging is mine. I believe our May 8th meeting has been, I have no report, and our May 8th meeting has been canceled. Airport Commission, Councilmember Daniel.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Nothing new to report, and the Airport Commission meets tomorrow.
Okay, Harbor Commission, Commissioner Cassina.
Sure is.
Councilmember Cassina.
Just a man. Just a guy.
Yeah, okay, that works.
No Harbor Commission since our last meeting. We had one scheduled for tomorrow that has been canceled due to lack of agenda items, so we will be meeting next on June 9th.
Okay, Planning Commission, Councilmember Askin.
There was no meeting or council member Sonar. Did you attend the last one?
Gosh, I can't remember. I know that I am attending the next P and Z meeting, which is next Wednesday night, the 14th. I think it's been a while since it's been like 3 weeks since P and Z has had one, and we reported on the previous one at the last council meeting. So it's been a 3-week stretch, which is why.
Yes, the last one was canceled because of no agenda items.
Correct. So
Sounds like we got it covered.
I'll be at the next one, next Wednesday night.
Okay. Appreciate you two sharing the load on that too. So that gets us down to, we skip Parks. Okay, we have Parks and Rec, Councilmember Doffett, sorry about that.
It's, I mean, it is the most important one, but that's okay,
Yeah.
So they had a meeting about, they talked about the cemetery, that the policies and procedures were brought up on that, but also Leaf Hansen Park, updating some policies on that and clarifying a few things and just kind of streamlining it. Some of it was pretty outdated, the rules that were involved in there, and some of it was too specific. So they had a good work session about that, and then also discussed it in their meeting. And then also kind of a longer discussion on this, and I'd be lying if I remember the exact hours, but I didn't write it down. They talked about amending and modifying the summer versus winter hours of operation for the rec center to adjust them just slightly to allow a little bit more participation without affecting people as much in the summer when they have those summer hour changes. And it sounds like they're working with the user group over there to come up with the best solution. I'm not sure if you have any questions. Mr. Best over there can answer any of them on specific hours, but it sounds like they're moving forward in the right direction.
Okay, now we have Beautification Commission, Councilmember Sonart.
That meeting is next Tuesday night, and somebody's covering it for us. Thank
All
you,
right.
Councilmember Daniel.
Yes, Councilmember Daniel.
Thank you for doing that. So that gets us down to item J, report of the mayor, Mayor Gabriel.
Thank you,
Report
Vice Mayor. Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. Next, I do have a few items here. First of all, I wanted to thank administration and finance and the departments for the time they put in Saturday for the budget meeting. I know I did leave a little bit early and I didn't attend the whole thing, but I just want to say I certainly appreciate the effort there that they provide for us, and that one-on-one. I think there's a lot of value to that, to see our department heads and have them be able to, tell us what they've been doing and brag on what their department employees do. I want to thank the Vice Mayor for delivering the proclamation for declaring April Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and for their presentation to the Lee Shore Center. Very important. And on April 19th, before I came down, we attended the Triumvirate Theater grand opening. They did a great job. I saw a few other council members there, and it was really a really neat evening, and nice to see the kids put on a performance there that was very well done, and enjoyed every minute of it. And with that, I'd just like to wish all the mothers out there a happy Mother's Day this Sunday. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, and congratulations on the new grandbaby too.
Yeah, I do mention we did. We got a beautiful baby granddaughter who's just absolutely gorgeous. Thank you.
Okay, that gets us down to item K, administrative reports, city manager.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Council. I do have a number of items that the city manager asked me to pass along to you, so I will work my way through this. With some staffing and recruitment updates. The Kenai Police Department has a new officer, Tyler Greenhall, starting on Monday. He's a 20-year experienced officer from Utah, so hopefully we'll get him up to speed by early this summer. And the fire department also has a new firefighter, Scott Butler. He'll be beginning on Monday. Scott's coming from Kodiak. He served as a firefighter since 2023, so for a couple of years. There's a recruitment underway for a public safety dispatcher position right now. In other news, the city held its annual employee appreciation event at the Senior Center on April 25th. It was a great turnout with almost 160 people in attendance. 17 employees were recognized for their years of service. He wanted to thank the council members who were able to join us. He felt like your presence means a lot there. This event's been an important annual tradition. Gives us a chance to celebrate the hard work of the employees and the staff at the city. So your attendance was much appreciated, those of you that could make it. Mr. Eubank attended the Kenai Economic Development District Industry Overview Forum, there's a mouthful, on April 24th, which was held in Kenai this year. It was a valuable event with the opportunity to hear presentations and meet with local leaders across the peninsula. U.S. Corps of Engineers Bluff Project update was on April 30th. The construction is scheduled to begin May 17th. If any of you guys weren't available to attend that, still on schedule for May 17th. The budget work session, May 3rd. Thanks again to the council and the department directors for all their work and spending Saturday working on that. The city's applied for a Rasmussen Foundation Community Support Grant to support the Kenai Bronze Bear family sculpture. The completed sculpture will be donated to the city, and any grant funds awarded would be passed through to the group, which is working with local Bridges Community Resources to manage the donations. The Kenai Senior Center may also pursue a separate Tier 1 grant at Rasmussen. Rasmussen allows for both a Tier 1 and a community support grant, as long as the funds are for different projects, so it looks like we can apply for both. The annual Kenai Kite Festival will be held Saturday, May 31st from 3 p.m. at the Millennial Square. The event will feature professional kite demonstrations by the Alaska Kiters Group, a build kite station, games, music, and frozen treats while supplies last. The Kenai Parks and Recreation will host a community planting day on Saturday, May 31st from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. There'll be a barbecue, and the Kenai Fire Department will be cooking between 11:30 and 12:30 p.m. The Kenai Community Library Summer Reading Program begins May 19th. And lastly, you wanted me to give you an update on the softball field dugouts. The materials that the city was waiting for have arrived, and the Parks and Recs and Building Department started assembling those today. The first game, high school games, I think were changed to the 12th. So the city manager was anticipating that 2 dugouts would be ready for that in place. They might not be 100% done, but they would be usable for the first high school games. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Any questions for the acting city manager? I want to say I appreciate the administration getting those dugouts, at least in operational mode. I realize you had some issues getting materials and all of that, but it sounds like it's kind of working out in the end. It sounded like it was not the end of the world, but getting close to it about a week ago. So anyway, good work on that. So if there's no further questions for the city manager, city attorney, Bloom.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Naxted, members of council. I'd just like to thank you for extending my contract. Look forward to working with you guys for at least another 3 years. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Bloom while we've got him talking? Oh, I thought I'd try anyway. So that gets us to Shelley Sainer, our city clerk. Your report?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Naxted. I have nothing to report this evening. I am available for questions.
My microphone. I'll repeat that. Additional public comments, I pressed the button, but I must have slipped off. Are there any members of the general public who would like to address the city council at this time? Marion.
Hi, Marion Nelson. This doesn't have anything to do with anything other than the parking lot issues. Many, many years ago, I lived on Walker Lane, and at that time, it was pretty bare compared to what it is now. And there were some vacant lots on Walker Lane at that time, next to where I lived at that time, and we had a horse or two. And guess what? We lunged our horse in the area where McDonald's is now. It was all sand and gravel. So he was a big horse, and it was no problem lunging that horse where we have a lot of hamburger going on right now.
Thank you, Marion. Seeing nobody else in the council chambers, that gets us down to council comments. We'll start online. Mayor Gabriel, you want to start?
Just real quick, thank you, Vice Mayor Naxted, and appreciate the work, the events you're attending while I'm gone, and appreciate that. Thanks.
My pleasure. Councilmember Askin.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I got to attend the Employee Appreciation Evening. It was great. And I also got to go to the Triumphant Theater grand opening, and we have a lot of talent here in Kenai, and it's great to see this avenue for kids. Thank you again to the department heads for putting on the budget meeting on Saturday. It's just always impressive how much information they have for us. And it's pretty late here, and I've been up all night, so I think I'm going to go to bed. Thank you.
Good night.
Councilmember Dothett.
Yes, I was able to attend the employee appreciation dinner. It was greatly attended. They had a pretty hilarious skit that they put on that I can't say enough about Dan Smith over there at the police department. If you want somebody who can make a room laugh, he's always the one to be there and do that. And his inflatable horse costume was pretty on par. I also want to bring up that the Caring for the Kenai was held, and we had, the first place winner was a pretty interesting one. It was Hannah Letterman did it, and she was from Seward High, and it was about a road brine replacement solutions. And if you haven't got a chance to look into it, it was a thermal asphalt mix. It was pretty interesting. I know we've got a lot of interest about the getting rid of the salt brines on the roads and that kind of things, and it's pretty amazing what these people bring up and talk about. And what these young people come up with for ideas for helping out in the area. But yeah, so that was the first place winner. But we did have a couple of local Kenai grads. We got one that did, Kyle Foster got second place, and then fifth place. And I will maybe ask Miss Sonart, as your teacher, how would you pronounce it? Elori? Elori? I believe it's Elori, I'm probably butchering it. Smith got a fifth place from Kenai Central High School also. So it's great to see us having some kids from our local schools placing in the top 5 or 6 people. It's pretty amazing. There's a lot of competition out there for that. So if you didn't get a chance to look into it, I encourage you to look into some of their ideas and see what they're coming up with. Every year it's amazing, their presentations. If you ever get a chance to go actually see it in person, I did it a couple of years ago, and seeing them, their presentations in person, it gives you hope for our future. We got a lot of industry leaders out there that are there. So other than that, it's just finally looking like summer today. So I'm glad I'm not stuck in a finance meeting, but the finance meeting was great. Even if it was a sunny, beautiful day that day. It's always good to have all those good discussions and find out where we can help with the different departments and see what they're doing in the future and what we need to be doing to help them along. So thank you for that. That was long-winded.
No problem. Councilmember Sonart.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nexted. I too got to attend the Employee Appreciation Dinner, and I have my red Kenai bandana. And I just want to say thank you for making the color red, whoever was in charge of that. And then the budget meeting Saturday, it's just, I could just say ditto to what the other council members have said. It's amazing how much preparation goes into putting that all together from all the different departments and the department heads for delivering the summary of each. It's a long day. I know our eyes tend to get glazed towards the end, which is why I was very glad that Mr. Swarner just went the last 5 or 6 is like he caught my attention then, but no, my attention was on it the whole time. I was just amazed at the detail that our city does. In fact, I've mentioned it to several people so far that the budget is in for this coming fiscal year, and they can rest assured that City of Kenai is on solid footing. So that was pretty cool. I'd also like to wish we have quite a number of Peninsula students that are headed up to UAA this weekend to participate in ASA's state solos and ensembles. A number of vocal students, I think Mr. Considum might have been one once upon a time, and instrumentalists, and they will be competing Friday and Saturday up at UAA. And I just want to wish them luck, and I think that's all I have.
Okay, Councilmember Daniel.
Man, you guys are taking all my thunder. So that's okay, though. I too attended the Employee Appreciation Banquet, forgot my sheriff hat, bummer, but it was well done and appreciate that event. Also went to Tremont Theater grand opening. That was a neat experience. And we do have a lot of talent here. We definitely do. And the budget work session here, thank you again, administration, for putting that together. I know the staff works very hard at that. And echoing what Councilmember Sonart said, City of Kenai is in good financial footing, and I really appreciated to see the work that has been done to plan for the future. So that's really, really critical and appreciated. Also was able to attend the Bluff project like community meeting, I guess we'll call it. That's right around the corner, May 16th. Very exciting that that bluff project's happening. Been a lot of people have been working on that before us, and that's very exciting that we're getting to see that happen. And yeah, I probably forgot something. Oh yes, one last thing. The dugouts, definitely appreciate city staff we'll get those worked on as best we could and came to some a solution, and better than I even thought with the time we had. So that's really, really awesome, that partnership with the school district and the city to make that work. That's really appreciated. Thank you.
Good. Councilmember Casena,
Well,
don't be brief.
why? It's become apparent that I am not as cool as many other council members and do not go to nearly as many fancy parties. So I did not make it to the theater grand opening. But I did get to go to the employee appreciation barbecue, or not barbecue, dinner, and the budget meeting. And I would say, as someone who's been to a number of both of those things, I do also appreciate it. I know how nerve-wracking it can be to prepare for a budget, how nerve-wracking it can be to present your budget. Some people just aren't here and then have other people present it for them. But for those of you who were here, I really thank you for standing up and doing that. It's always a challenge. And I know firsthand how much work that takes. So thanks to Parks and Rec and for solving the dugout problem. I appreciate all the public who reached out as well. I know it can be, when your kids are involved, certainly a more emotionally invested thing for you. So thank you for the folks who reached out, but also thank you, Parks and Rec. It's been a while since I said great job. But my kid also just started playing softball, so we're on a different Parks and Rec location now other than just hockey, and those fields look good too. That's it.
That's good. I missed the employee appreciation dinner. I try not to miss a meal, but I did. I was somewhere else, but I apologize for doing that. I think it was 2 years in a row. It was just by chance, and sometimes that date seems to slip or move back and forth when they're going to have that, and I already had plans. But a few of the things that I did is I attended the Parks and Rec Master Plan kickoff meeting. Thank you, Mr. Best, for doing that. And you had our consultant there. It was at the visitor center. There was a bunch of tables out with names of the various parks and for comments from individuals and what they thought they wanted to see there, didn't want to see there, anything else, and all that. So it was the kickoff on that, and I think great things were going to happen from that. So that's great. Then the Triumphant Theater, they had an open house at noon and hot dogs. And that was cool. And then the gala that evening. But I attended the open house at noon first, and I'd been in the building maybe 3-4 weeks before, and it was a construction project. There was no seats, there was concrete and no lights, some lights, wires hanging out. I went into this building, and there was carpet on the floor, staircases, railings, lights, pictures on the walls, all of that. And the upper balcony, and which was donated by a family, by the way, that wouldn't have been there. All of this, including the stage, all the details. I have to say, it was emotional, because I went from expecting how could they possibly go from that to being able to present something that evening, and I was very taken by that. And then of course the gala that evening, it does amaze me what our young people here can do. For young people, it was quite professional, very good. Then I did go to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I called it the public pre-construction meeting, because I didn't know what to call it, because it was probably identified as something, but lots of good information there. And just a number of the people that did come, there were concerned commercial fishermen that have tie up out there, and they're coming and going, and they gave them an opportunity to get numbers and faces and whatnot, because they were concerned about conflicts, especially at low tide, because there's going to be some really big barges there that are going to shift away from the bank and whatnot. But I think that went pretty well. It was likened to a construction project when you're driving to Anchorage and you're going to get some delays because that's just the way it goes. But then it'll be controlled and you can move on. So I think that went well. And it's about another 10 days and we should have a barge down there or some rock. There's 2 barges. There's a receiving barge and then the delivery barge. So hopefully we'll get notice when it's going by Homer or something like that. I want to go out and see. I'll go fly over it or something. Last Saturday, we had the budget meeting, and I always appreciate those. I've been doing them since the first one, and I learn new things every time, and I really appreciate having all of the directors come in, and we get a one-on-one with them and their budget too, so it's kind of a personal money into and all of that. And I think it's great for council. It's great for me. And I think it also smooths out the budgeting process rather than us just going home with our book and then having a meeting and then, which is how it used to go. And it was a gambit, what to expect, and I think we have this system, even though it seems like it takes a lot of time, that whole Saturday, it's really worth it. And I think the project, the budget book is completed in a more concise way, I guess to say. And let's see, the last thing I'd like to mention is something that hasn't happened yet, but I think it's this Saturday, the Boys and Girls Club is going to have their open house. And I think that's at 3 o'clock on Saturday, and open up to the public, and I think they're going to have hot dogs, stuff like that. Something definitely to go to. So mentioning all of these, just backing up, if you think about what's going on in our city, we've got the Boys and Girls Club, that's opening up, and there's going to be traffic and all the kids and things going there. Now we've got the Triumphant Theater, and that's all happening in that part of town too. And those are some of the same people, by the way. It's just, there's a lot going on in our city, and I think it's something we all ought to be proud of and cognizant, like what's Kenai got going for it? It's got going a lot for it, So anyway, that's all I've got. So we have no executive session, no pending items, and having no other business before the